Good morning, guys. Welcome to this Wednesday, April 16th. And got a bit of craziness going on in the overnight. I think, yeah, I saw a headline about NVIDIA writing down some chip sales and some revenue because they can't sell some chips to China. So the whole thing's gap down at the open. That was kind of surprising. A big gap down, and then as I was looking at that, no idea why that would be happening. I saw a headline this morning, probably related to that NVIDIA write down. And then they've been all the way down here to the 5340s before they start trickling back up again. So volatility is not going anywhere right now. As all these little headlines comes out, all these little fallouts. Necessary, but I mean, I think it's necessary to reset those trade relationships. It's just causing a little bit of a heartburn, that's for sure. So, looking at the news this morning, we had mortgage apps coming out, mortgage application came out at 7. They were down across the board, actually. It was way down. So that didn't look too good. I thought the yields came back down for a bit there, but with the mortgage rate, I guess yeah, it's hard to say. I can't quite wrap my head around that, but they spiked up here lately. Let me see, they were down. The prices were down here lately, but it's a little bit too close for it to impact the report like that. So, but anyway, it was not a great number on the mortgage applications. At 8:30, we get retail sales. That could be market mover. Industrial production at 9:15. At 10 o'clock, we get business inventories and housing market data. And oil report at 10:30. So that's what we got going. We had Jerome Powell speaking at 1:30. I saw that. That's going to be an interesting one. Pay attention to around 1:30 today. And it was right before that at 1 o'clock, we have a 20-year bond auction. So we got a lot of news coming out throughout the day. So a little bit of volatility in overnight, a lot of news coming out. So yeah, okay. It could be an interesting day for sure. So the way this holds looks to me is like we're still holding above that 5300 edge. We didn't never ran down that far, but definitely gap down from this holding on to our gains here. And we are trading right in this range between 53 and 5500. So I'd say before we can't had to get past that congestion area at 5500 to 5570. And so as long as we can take that out, as long as we hold below hold above that 5300s, I think we are at least range bound. You can maybe go back and forth in a range, but watch that lower level to take out the 5300s. Would be very aggressive on the short side and see how far they can take it. And a day like this, it's hard to say what they're going to go with it because it's a gap down and then they ran it down in the overnight in a little retracement. We had this big pop, as you saw, this little big pop. I didn't quite get a headline on that one. It came out, some news event came out or some announcement, and market popped like crazy. So at 53.50 all the way up to almost a 75 points to the upside. So that's kind of scary. I mean, I would expect the margins maybe to be higher this morning, margin to trade. But I would start off range bound at this point still. Maybe a slight bias to the downside to get started, given the gap down. But the overnight retraced pretty good, and this last little pop may have reversed that whole thing. We're still trading below yesterday's close, though, so maybe a slight bias to the downside. Maybe favor the short side early on to see if they can take this lower. In other words, looking to sell strength at this point against the 5400s, 5410s, and the 5420s for rotations back down. Just to get started, just in case this write down is going to get a little bit more impact than we may think. So looking to sell strength, 5400, 5410, 5420 for rotations back down. Trade up above 5420 back into yesterday's day session. Well, yeah, fine. We take off this short bias, go back range bound. And if they can't get up above it, then we're probably going to be staying range bound. If they can hold that 5340 down to the 5300s. Let me see here. Let me go if I scroll this down a little bit. So here you had a 5320. the 53.15s and the 5300. So as long as they hold these two support areas down here, I think we are still in a good spot to stay in a range, even if it's going to look like a pretty weak day. So if they start heading lower, I would look at this area, the 53.60s. They start to retracing past that. I would stay on the short side and see how far they can take it. Looks like the most of the volume is here above that 53.75s. So one level below that would be 53.65s, and they start taking that out. I would still be looking to buy against these the 60s, the 50s, 40s, but just a little bit less aggressively. Then I think it's the momentum is to the downside at that point, and you just want to be cautious stepping in front of it. As long as they hold these, then the support areas, the 53.20, 5300s, we are pretty much, I think, in good shape not to totally fall apart, but it could turn into be a pretty weak day. So we will see. There's a long weekend coming up, and maybe people want to be out of everything going into the weekend. And if that's the case, we'll see some selling. But it's anyone's guess. Going into this week, we had some strength, and so far it's been pretty good strength until just now, when they had a little gap down in the overnight. And you never know when you get these little headlines come out. The company is going to write down some profits or whatnot to impact the market. But as long as it's nothing systematic or something across the board tariff related, I think it's going to be more volatility, but not necessarily massively directional. So we'll see how the whole thing shakes out. But watch these areas. They trade up above that 54.20s. Take off the short bias, go back range bound, and we are back up in this upper range from yesterday. And depending what happens here as we get through half the day, we may have to readjust, take off the short bias anyway, but just go back range bound at a lower price. So we'll see how the whole thing shakes out. But I'm looking for potential weakness in the morning early on. So looking to sell strength for rotations back down, and not super aggressive buying weakness early on, and buying against that 75 and the 65. Probably be a little bit more aggressive on those, but it's if they start taking them out, then there's no point in being super aggressive on the following ones. Just look for good setups and triggers. So it's all about if this gap down is going to turn into a little bit of weakness today, or if we're going to pretty much see more of a range bound day. We'll see. So those are the levels to pay attention to. Let's see how this whole thing develops. And anything you see a reaction like this, you kind of have to wonder what it is, and when it's and if it's going to kind of may have reversed that gap down we had early on in the overnight. So kind of contradictory messages this morning, but I'm going to start off with a slight bias to the downside just to see if we can take this lower. On the Nasdaq and the bonds, on the Nasdaq and the bond market, pretty much range bound. I think it's settling in nicely here at this high volume area. So they were way up here, and then they took it way down, and they were all the way down here to that 115.15, and they took the 90-day pause back up again to 114.15.16, and that's a nice attractor area. So just repriced the bonds a little bit lower, but it looks like it's stabilized pretty well. So range bound trading on the bonds at this point. I'm going to be looking to sell strength 28s, 1502s, buying weakness, 114, 15, 16 down to the 114.10s for rotations back up again. There's a level right here at the 20s, but I mean, I think they're trading right there now, so it's not going to look at that as a specific edge at this point. So we see some strength looking for shorts against 28s, 1502, maybe even up to the 1508 10s, and then looking to buy weakness 1416s down to the 1410s for rotations back up. So that's fairly straightforward on the bonds at this point. As long as they stay calm, I think the market can swing back and forth a bit without too much hassle. And here again, Nasdaq, well, that gap down. That's definitely NVIDIA gap down. So they were a little bit weak here at the close. Big gap down, all the way down, and then they took this lower. And I looked at this like, what the heck is going on with this now? And yes, that's one of those things you can't. You just have to shake your head. That's kind of roll with the punches, right? Roll with the punches. As long as they hold that edge, the 18350s, I think they're same as the ES, and potentially could stay in the range here and build value. It's anyone's guess though if you're going to get any strength today or where they're going to go, because we had both these pops, the gap down and this little pop at 4:30 in the morning to the upside, kind of countering it. Now, I would be starting off the same way, slight bias to the downside, looking to sell strength. So looking for short setups against the 740s, 770s, 800s, up to that 860s. And if they can get up above the 860s, maybe even up here in that 900 range prior to the close of yesterday, we may have a shot at retracing back into that prior value. But I'm looking for shorts up to that level, the 860s. Above that one, I'll take off the short bias. Now, depending on what happens halfway through the day, we may have to adjust again, but it's to get started this morning, just looking for early strength to get short and see if this weakness is going to persist. But if it doesn't, if they kind of just stick around, then we may have a shot at more of a range-bound day, even if it gapped down a bit. I can see most of the tech stocks, like checking some quotes this morning, is all down. Nvidia is down like $7 in the overnight, so it's not that great. But it's and on the way down and looking to buy against that 650s down to 610s, but that's it. So it's just same as on the ES, fairly early on, looking for these support areas to hold. But if they don't, they start taking out a couple of these support areas, I would just stay on the short side and see how far they can take it. Below that 18,500, we can. It's going to get a little bit gnarlier. Definitely just stay on the short side at that point. But still look to buy support areas down to that 350 level. So below 350, that's when it really gets gnarly. But it's at this point, still looking to buy support just a little bit less aggressively. So if they take out these two support areas, I will not be super aggressive on these 560s. Maybe the 500s may be a decent support area. Then you have that 350 and the 300s, these two support areas. If both of these lower areas comes out, that's when it really could open up on the downside. So we'll see how volatile this is going to get today. Now, overnight volume, there's like 500,000 in the micro NASDAQ, 350 on the micro ES. So volume is a little bit higher. It's not crazy, not in the a million contracts. So that's a little bit higher volatility going into today's session. Finally, oil and gold. Gold, massive move to the upside. So that was they just took off. They pretty much just freaking took off and did not look back at all. So gold, look at that, $100 up. So they were a big move here the other day from 31 to 32, 32.50, and 32.50 up to 33.30. So almost 80, $70 or $80 to the upside so far. That's pretty crazy. So I'm going to be looking for a potential retracement trade here going into the session as the session kicks in and see how far they want to take this. Because definitely feels a little bit overextended. But then again, I mean, people buying gold, the cash, the capital flow going into metals as the hard assets right now, that's driving these higher. So at this point, if you're chasing it, you never know when you're going to be the last one buying it. So it's one of those things which it feels very much overextended. But then again, it just depends on how people are valuing it, how much capital is flowing in there, and how far they can take it. But so I would start off on the long side. If it starts trading below these areas, the 33 13s and the 33 05s, it's like 4 to 7, this whole range, 4 to 7. But these two support areas come out, I would be looking for a retracement trade, and that could be pretty violent too. So it could be pretty nice opportunity there on gold for that one to retrace this overnight move. But we'll see. So at this point, big trading from the long side to get started. Look to buy weakness, 33.20s, 33.12s, 33.05s for rotations back up again. If the trade below that 35.05s, I'm starting looking for that retracement trade and see how violent that could get. But man, that is some crazy stuff happening on gold right now. So you had to wonder. There's definitely concerns out there in the global market as people are repricing stuff and trying to find some safety. And then finally, oil. A little bit to the upside, but pretty darn range bound. It's not moving in a crazy way. So look at the oil pretty much selling in a range here around the 61 level. So I would start off trading oil range bound. Look to sell strength at this point against the 62.20s, 62.70s up to the 63.20s. That's 63.20s is that three-letter ledge. So looking to sell strength up to that level. Look to buy weakness at this point against the 61.50s, 61.10, 60.80, 60.50, 60.20. So they start trading below these areas, the 58.50s, that ledge at 58.50 to 59. That's when you need to worry about them taking another leg lower. So range bound oil trading between about 62.50 to 58.50. All right, so and here you have those lower edges. So that 50 they got 59.20. So these lower support areas, if they come out, that's when you start worrying about the short side and potential move to the downside. But starting off range bound, given the overnight, maybe look for early strength, but look for short setups against resistance. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at oil right now. With gold, big move, always concerns me when the gold moves like that, and it's been moving pretty freaking hard to the upside. So someone is predicting some major stuff happening or has some major concerns. And the gold market is usually right, so there may be more pain to come. You never know. Especially, I think this Chinese standoff is maybe what's causing a lot of global players to be really uneasy. I think though it's a necessary reset. So it's something which has been going on for like 30 years. I mean, they've been talking about that since the 90s, how China's ripping us off and taking our jobs and stuff like that, and they have not done shit about it. So now in 2025, yeah, it's going to be a lot more painful to correct course. So that's what we are living through, course corrections. Anyway, for us, we just trade the markets, and we can trade it from the long or short side. Just have to be kind of right on the direction, and then try to trade it from a given direction the best we can. So starting off, as I said, on the ES and NASDAQ with a slight bias to the downside, looking to sell strength, and let's see how this whole shakes out in the first half of the day. How wild it's going to get. It's anyone's guess if we get continuation to the downside or if this reversal here at 4:30 is going to create a little bit of a move to the upside. But we know when to change our minds and we know how to approach it. So I'll wrap it there. So good trading, guys. We have news in about 6 minutes, 7 minutes. So good trading, and I'll see you back at 11:30 for the next update. Alrighty, guys, later.